Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. Many of you are aware there is a conflict in the Ger Chassidic movement that is the largest Chassidic movement in the world, and we have a panel on hand to discuss these issues. Okay, schedule right now. We have Rabbi Zvi Gluck. He's a community leader. He's active. He's many generations in the Ger Chassidic movement. He's not here in his capacity where he's a Mudim, but he deals with a lot of abuse and helping families. He's here as a private individual. We'll be speaking to Yechezkel Lev. He's a Ger beating victim. He was just beaten up about a couple of weeks ago in Israel. Shlomo Ehlbaum is a lawyer for uh, Rabbi Alter. So good luck, everybody. Let me begin with you, Rabbi Zvi Gluck. Thank you for joining us. So I know you wrote a very interesting article about what's going on and your feelings. So we appreciate you being with us and sharing with our audience some of your thoughts.
Good to Zev. As always, it's a pleasure to be speaking to you. I just wish this would be under a better circumstance and a more enjoyable topic. What can I say?
No, I and it's hard because it's something which we're seeing not just in the Ger Hasidic community, we've seen it in Satmar and Bobov, and I spoke to some people who say a lot of these Hasidic groups, thank God, have grown tremendously since after the Holocaust. So they're destined for a split, and you're having a split in various movements. And from what people have told me, they're saying, well, they're big enough that they can have a split and have two rebbes. I'm just telling what people have said.
So I want to make it very clear. I am not, as I wrote in the article, I'm not here looking to not to get involved in any split per se. I mean, I did find it interesting that the Imre Emes did write in his will that if anybody wants to leave the Rebbe that they're going to and go to another Rebbe, they should be allowed to do so without any issues because fighting amongst Jews is a very horrific thing. But that being said, I'm not here. My position here has nothing to do with what's going on in Ger. Obviously, nobody likes machlokas, and it's very difficult to preach that we want to, bring Mashiach and we need to have peace if things like this could go on. But my issue was more as a individual who was minding my own business while I was in Yerushalayim, for a short visit and witnessed something that was, I mean, horrific. No other words to describe it. And when I attempted to try to reach out to some of the various people within the Ger Chassidic leadership and explaining, what I saw, what was done, I was met with tremendous resistance, told to mind my own business. And then before I even had a chance to turn around, people started, sending me interesting threats and comments. And, I don't really like that. I stand for people that, cannot have a voice for themselves. And when this took that turn, it just bothered me tremendously that I felt that I needed to say something. I mean, it is very, very sad because, my mother, may she live and be well, is from a family where her father was very, very close to Ger. I have family members that are married into the Rebbe's family. We go back generations, back to Poland. My family's roots to Ger. I mean, it's been very strong for literally generations. And seeing this is just heartbreaking. It was always the one thing that we used to always say at the family table was, look at the beauty by Ger, there's never machlokes. Again, I can't comment on that. This is not a question of sides right or wrong, but there's a concept of agree to disagree, and people shouldn't have to be fearful for their lives over things that are going on. That's just
Explain what you mean
completely
by that.
unacceptable.
Maybe just give so you maybe just give a little background as to what happened and what's
So,
transpiring, what you're speaking about.
so I don't really know the full background. That's something that I let some of the others on the phone talk about. All I can tell you is on Yirmiyahu Street a couple of weeks ago, Friday night, literally just walking down the street and seeing this, bombardment of, I'm going to say, it was definitely more than 1,000, but at the very least, nobody can argue that it wasn't hundreds of Hasidim, many of them wearing spudiks. So people that were saying that it was only, a few Bacharim, whatever, it was not true, holding bottles, rocks, sticks in their hands, and like, for lack of a better word, what seemed like a mob scene, something that I've only seen in movies, literally running down the street, sounding like a trampede of elephants, screaming, yelling, and throwing things. I mean, we could talk about the blatant Chillul Shabbos that was witnessed. I mean, it was something that, nobody ever thinks they're going to see. And not even knowing what's going on, just making a comment in Yiddish of asking what's going on is enough to have somebody, give you a kick, a push, a shove, knock down. I mean, there were couples there with a baby. There was two couples that I saw specifically. One of them had a baby carriage. The carriage was knocked over. They were holding the baby. There was an elderly gentleman, probably in his 80s, also not part of anything, was walking towards his house. Same thing. I mean, it was just wild and it was scary. And, not really knowing what's going on and just seeing this, this is not the way we're supposed to be acting or behaving ever. And the part that really bothers me is, we all preach and talk about, having peace and having shalom and, we're, Oivdei Hashem, we have to, be a light unto the nations. And I have still not seen or heard any of the leadership from Ger Chassidic condemning what happened. And I just don't understand that. I mean, let's even assume that they claim it's a Mechames mitzvah. People have called me. I've got a lot of complaints. I will tell you, I got a lot more compliments than complaints, but a lot of complaints. Don't mix in, don't this. I'm not mixing in. I just want to understand, why can't people get up and say, enough, this is not the way that we act. But imagine if somebody walked into the Ger Beis Medrash in Yerushalayim, Shabbos morning, right before laning, and took out a cigarette, lit it, and started smoking in the Beis Medrash. What would happen to that person? Chillul Shabbos.
Mhm.
And then here, it was blatant. It was caught on video. There was video of people trying to break video cameras on Friday night. You couldn't miss it. It was there. It's time-stamped. It's dated. It's clear as day. So they want to, even if they want to say that this is a bigger something, at the end of the day, Chillul Shabbos 100% happened. Nobody can deny that. Still no voice from the leadership. Innocent people, nobody should ever get hit. Nobody. I mean, there's never an excuse. But I mean, at the end of the day, people can't even walk out and mind their own business because there's some sort of fight going on and have to be scared they're going to end up in a hospital or get their skull cracked open because people are acting like wild hooligans. I mean, this is unacceptable.
Now, you mentioned that people threaten you. Who threatened you when you've written the articles? People, most people support, but some people threaten you. Who were they? What's going on?
I got people from within Ger that reached out to me, saying either, we're going to go after some of your donor base, which, by the way, people have done. We're going to find out when you're around, and people aren't around. I mean, I got some very, very interesting threats, all of which were reported to the authorities. It's kind of hard to always know who did what. Those that sent it to me via messages, I've screenshotted, things of that nature. But it's just, instead of people realizing like this is not the way we're supposed to live, they go after the people that are saying something, and it's just unacceptable.
No, totally agreeable. This violence is out there, and people, even it's reached to the United States, where people have been fired from their job. Where if you work, for Rabbi Shaul, you've lost your livelihood. There are lots of altercations taking place, mostly in Israel, but you find it here in the United States as well. And we are exploring that right now. Let me welcome from Israel Rabbi Shlomo Ehlbaum, who's a lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter. So, Shavua Tov, thank you for joining us from Israel. Good morning to you in Israel. Shlomo, are you there? I see that you are online with us. Okay, you just have to put on your microphone, and we'll be able to communicate with you.
Okay, a good tevach.
Good luck.
You hear me?
So I know you've been listening to our conversation. So you
Yes.
are in Israel. You're a lawyer. Tell us about what you're doing. What's happening?
In the last 2 years, I'm trying to help the whole community from Rabbi Shaul Alter. I'm going from one to the other to the court. The mean I could say is when I find somebody beating up somebody yelling on somebody spilling on somebody something by a wedding or whatever it should be, I just go to court and I take out all kind of how's it called, החלטות from the court.
Restraining orders? Is that what you're referring to?
The English is too hard English that I can't explain, but I tell you there's all kind of halichim, all kind of ways that I could stop this all kind of beating up. I get every child, every whatever that does something to somebody, I just get up and I go to that place and I go to Beersheba and I go to Ashdod and I go to Yerushalayim or whatever it should be. Then the judge calls this person and tells them, what did you do? Why did you do it? And that's the last 2 years Baruch Hashem, stopped this whole kind of behavior to other killers from Shaul Alter. What happened the last weeks ago, that was something that exploded all of a sudden because all kind of reasons. So then we have to go back again to court and start getting them back down. And we took another lawyer, a big lawyer that's going to sue them big amounts of all kind of millions of everything that they did to all the people. And also today and tomorrow, I'm going to court over here and over there in Bekemesh, all kind of little stuff that people did. Every bocher, every child, everybody knows that if you do something, you'll end up in court, and that's the only way that you can finish it.
Now, how many people have you gone to court over? You said there have been beatings. You've stemmed it for a while, but how many people did you have to go to court about?
I had around 30, 40 cases, but now after this Shabbos, we're talking about hundreds.
When you say Shabbos, you
That
talking
means the whole
about today?
yeshiva of Bochrim that we.
You talking about
What?
today? There was some violence today.
Not today, Mamish, but it's called this pogrom. It's called this Crystal Nacht, this Crystal Shabbos. That it's called. We have a few hundred people that were involved in it, and they're taking each one is going to end up in court.
Okay,
Some of it have to pay a lot of money.
It doesn't seem to be working. If it happened again, it doesn't seem to be working. If you have hundreds of cases, we had 30 or 40 previously.
I think that when people, when lots of people will get it, so next time it won't happen again. Because now it was several people, 10, 15, 20 people didn't, they were so involved. Now we'll speak about hundreds of people. Everybody will know, everybody has a family, has a neighbor, has a friend that will know that he finished his court. That's going to help that next time it won't be such a thing.
And how is the Rebbe involved? Is he telling his Hasidim not to get involved in the fighting? What's the role of the Grand Rebbe, of the Ger Rebbe?
What I know and I heard from people, he is involved. It goes, he was involved, and it was mamish. It came from him that's what they're supposed to be. And afterwards, after it happened, after Shabbos, when they saw that the whole community is so against it, everybody's talking about it, so they found out that it was wrong what they did. So that's why.
Now, let me ask you: you were a lawyer representing Rabbi Shaul Alter. Is there a lawsuit that you've brought against the Rebbe and against the main Ger Chassidic group in Israel?
No, the Rebbe not, but against the main Hasidim, the Rebbe's child, and all the Vada. It's called the Vada Yonah. That's the main people that they give out all these kind of whatever you have to do. Yeah, we have now a lawsuit, and we're in the middle of it. We have in Tammuz, we're having a next day. There was once I took them to court, and they made the same night demonstration under my house. 20,000 people came under my house. Whole Maybach was locked up, was closed up because I took them to court. But that's what they do till this whole thing was up.
Now, when you say, did you take him to Bezdin first, or you went straight to court?
No, of course. I went to Bezdin before the first day. I went to a few Batei Din. Every Bezdin that they heard what I want to do, they said, "Get me out of it. I don't want to start off with Ger Chassidim." There was one Bezdin that was ready to take this whole case. Then when we started to dealing with him, so we found out that the Ger Chassidim met the Dayanim before, so we understood that it can't be anything. So then we went to Rabbi Shafran. Rabbi Shafran wrote us. He's a big Dayan, the biggest Dayanim in Eretz Yisrael. He wrote a letter that he told me that I could go to court with. I don't have to go to Bezdin. Now we had another opinion. We went to the Nissim Karelis Bezdin. Rav Silman, he tried to get that we'll all be in Bezdin. Everything that we have between other communities from Shaul Alter and the Ger community should be in Bezdin. But after 2 weeks, they answered that they don't want to take a part in it. So Rav Silman, he also wrote and also told us we should go to court because there's no, you can't go with them to Bezdin.
Let me turn to you, Zvi. I know you've written an article about it because you were upset about what's taking place. Are you familiar in the United States of people that have been harassed or lost their job because of it?
So I have been getting comments and emails from people in the United States. One person in particular called me right before Shabbos, asking me if I can try to help because his son, who was in a Gera Mesifta, has not spoken to him or his wife in, he said, about 6, 7 months, because they basically asked him to speak to them because they are part of the other side. So this was one person that contacted me. Another one told me that he was having an issue davening in the Gerish Diebel that he's been davening in for years because of the position that he's taken. So there certainly are things that are happening everywhere. I mean, Baruch Hashem, we didn't see any violence here, but yeah, there are, people destroying families, not being allowed to go to family simchas. I mean, I have one family particularly that I'm very, very close to, and they were crying to me saying, my brother's making a wedding, and I'm not even allowed to go because, I am following the Rav Shaul Alter and his group. Again, I haven't really gotten involved in the nitty gritty or the details about it, but I find it hard to believe that we talk about kibbud of aim, that kibbud, a rebbe trumps kibbud of aim. I don't know. Maybe it's a different Torah that I'm using, but I haven't seen that yet.
But you also write about cases, I guess, in Israel about kidnapping.
Yeah. So when I was in Israel the last time around, a few months ago, I was dealing with a case where I got a call about a family whose kids went to school and never came back home after school. And it turned out that they were taken by Hasidim and by some of the people involved in the school that they were in to a different family member against the parents' wishes, because the family was on the quote unquote other side. Again, not, again, completely unacceptable. In that case, it turns out that they were American citizens. We were able to get the staff at the embassy involved, and thank God it helped. But again, mixing in people's political differences and destroying families for that and things like that, these are just unacceptable behaviors. On any level. And especially if we're, supposed to be, the people that follow, what Hashem wants and follow the Torah. This is, again, I'm not the biggest rabbi in the world. I'm sure everybody has their own shitas, but, I look at the top 10, and kibbud of aim is one of them. And, doing these things to destroy families, I don't know which planet that's considered acceptable on any level.
You heard Rabbi Zvi Gluck. He's a community leader. His family goes back for generations in the Ger Chassidic movement. We're speaking to Shlomo Ehlbaum. He's a lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter in Israel, and that's a breakaway from, I guess, the main Ger Chassidic group. We are looking and should be having contact in a little while with Yechezkel Lev, who was beaten up just about 2 weeks ago in Israel. When we come back, we continue our conversation. Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner, and we're looking at the altercation within the Ger Chassidic movement. They're the largest Chassidic movement in Israel, and we've been talking to Rabbi Zvi Gluck. Also on the line is Shlomo Ehlbaum, a lawyer for Rav Shaul Alter. He is in Israel, and we're taking your phone calls, 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. You can also email us, zevbrenner@gmail.com. zevbrenner@gmail.com. Let's take some phone calls right now. Let's go to Avraham in Kensington, in New York. Okay, Avraham in Kensington. No, first, let's take Yossi. Let's take Yossi in Brooklyn first. Okay, Yossi in Brooklyn, go ahead. You have a question for our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm listening for the last 15, 20 minutes or so, and I hear that the Ger Chassidim, you have one sect fighting another sect. But what are they fighting about? I'm listening here for 15, 20 minutes. Nobody's saying what they're fighting about.
Very good question, and I'm going to let our Shlomo, maybe I'll let you tackle that.
Yes, a very, very good question. I'm asking a question, the same question too. It's very different than Satmar, than Bobev, than all kind of
Yeah, Shlomo.
there was a fight. Hello.
Yes,
Shlomo,
go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, all the places there's a fight. There's a fight on real estate. There's a fight on the name. There's a fight of anything.
Ger Chassidim are fighting another sect of Ger Chassidim, but nobody comes to the the reasoning as to why are they fighting? For what reason? What are they for?
Okay, so let me explain you. This is
Explain
very
what-
different.
It's all, by the way, you have to explain it's about control, because this is, everybody wants to be Rebbe, but you explain it because you know better, because you're living it every day.
Okay, so it's not everybody who wants to be rabbi. This is people that just want to leave. They just want to leave the place. That's very, very, very different than all other kinds of places that split. Every place that is split, they want to take real estate, they want to take money, they want to take the name of the Hasidus. There's something that they're fighting about it. This is the first time that I know that is a part of there's 20,000 families just want to go, because hundreds of families want to leave, thousands of families just want to leave. Let us go alone. Now, this thing that people that want to go away from this place, they make them that they feel that somebody is saying that they're wrong. So they're trying to fight about this kind of a feeling that how could it be that somebody says that I'm wrong? How could it be that somebody says that my way that I live, my what I believe in, all the kind of things is wrong? That's the only thing that this fight is about. So I say that it's very hard this time, because you can't sit as I'll say, well, every time there's a fight, somebody wants something, so you could go to a Bezdin, you could go to court, and you could go and take the real estate and give them a few percent, and them a few percent, all kind of names. You could change the name. But for this place, there's no name that we took. There's no real estate that we took. Nothing. Just we want to go, and we can't go, because everybody that goes, he has to fight up with his brothers, with his father, mother, with his kids, his own kids home. That's terrible. That's the way that we can't come on with this whole thing.
But isn't it about, listen, they're related, they're cousins, and you have Rav Shaul, who's a big Talmud Chacham, he's very well respected, but at the end of the day, it's for control of the Ger Chassidic movement. That's really what it's all about.
No, the Ger Chassidic movement has a lot of things, but this thing is called people. People just want to live. That nobody wants to take away from the Ger Rebbe. It shouldn't be Ger Rebbe. Everybody is happy. There's a Ger Rebbe. There's thousands of people will continue to go to him and to his children and generations. Nobody cares about it. But is there a few people that just they think that it's not for them? This way is not for them. They want to just go somewhere else. So if all these people will go to Satmar, will go to Chabad, will go anywhere, nobody cares. Just they can't take it that there are people that are saying we want something else. We want something that's the same as else. We want something that's called Ger, yeah, but the name, without a name, without anything, that's the whole reason of the fight.
Well, I mean, according to the media reports, it has to do with there was a change in the learning, right? In the Ger Yeshiva,
Yeah.
it was right that led to it. But at the end of the day, according to what the media is reporting, and those on the inside, I spoke to people in the Ger Chassidic movement as well. It's really for control of the institutions, because that's really what it boils down to. And you have this not only in Ger, you have this in Satmar, you have this in Bubov, you have it in other groups where the groups are grown so large. And you have those that would like to be Rebbe. When Rebbe controls followers, there's power, there's prestige, there's money involved. So you can't negate that. That is a factor. And I've heard this from very prominent people within the movement. So this is how it's being perceived. So I know there are other issues, I'm sure, but this is an important factor as well. That's how the media's been reporting. That's how I've heard this from people within the community.
Yes, I said there's several reasons that people think that they have to go away from Ger. The learning and it's all kind of whatever the Bochum learn the yeshivas, and that's one of the reasons. And if you could say that's one of the reasons, that you could explain people that don't understand this all kind of under the table, under the things that other people can understand. But of course, that's something that people just want to live. That's it. Let us go. Let's go. This thing you don't let people go, and everybody just goes as to.
When you say let go, what do you mean by let go? I mean
Let go. Take my money. You could have all the shtiblas, you could have all the yeshivas, you could have all the buildings, everything that we paid, everything that our parents paid will stay by you. Let us go.
You're saying as a representative, Rabbi Shaul Alter, what you're stating is that you don't want the money, you don't want the buildings, you don't want everything. You just want to operate as an independent group.
Yeah, we don't want the name. Even we're not calling Ger. We're calling Pnei Menachem. Anything that you want, anything that that regular cities are splitting. That's the whole war is about that. We don't have these old things. We just want to go. Let us take us our children. Let us be I'll explain you. I have a brother that's is marrying his son another 2 3 weeks. When he made the shidduch, the first night of the shidduch was that all my brothers that are in the community from Shaul Alter can't come to the wedding. That's the thing that's terrible. It can't be such a thing, and it was nowhere such a thing. That's the reason why.
Let me read you an email because, and we have a lot of calls. So we're going to get to them as well. This is what a listener writes. Problems in Ger go back a long time, much before this latest terrible outbreak. The story is told that way back at a gathering, perhaps a good at Knesset Gadol in 1980. The Ger Rebbe came in surrounded by groups of Hasidim, pushing terribly around them, with discussing disregard for bystanders. Rav Shach, we saw it up close, exclaimed in shock, Chayas, they were wild animals, to which the Ger Rebbe responded, Zenin Chayas, Aber Chayas HaKodesh, they're Chayas, but holy ones. Geras have forced young Hasidim of theirs to take pills, drugs when they had problems, a way of control them. The minister was done in the old USR. There are many other examples. Ger dispute is different than Satmar Bubov, as Rashul doesn't call himself Rebbe rather Rosh Yeshiva, and it's not filed claim to probably owned by the secretary, what you said. But it seems that this is not just happening now, according to what this listener has written and what's been reported. This goes back a while.
Yes, I think also this what you're talking about is also about whoever gets a good Yisrael and whoever, all kind of things that there's a reason to fight about Amen. This is a place that there's no reason to fight. I mean, there's no reason. We just want to leave. That's it. You can't take us. We're not. I'm not a slave of anybody, and we just want to leave. That's something else. So I think that how much time I'll say it, and how much time people will hear it, they'll understand that it could be that a person wants to just go somewhere else. There's no way. There's no way to catch people and hold them under the hand.
Let's go to Avraham in Nidwa. Thank you for patiently waiting. Your question for our guests. Go ahead.
Yes, forgive me. I don't mean to sound jocular, but it's such an embarrassing and hysterical prospect to an outsider that I feel like a person who went to an Irish wedding and a fight broke out, and he says, "Is this a private fight, or can I join too?" So let's say that I'm from the Chevra that wants to beat up other Jews because it's important to be Mechal Shabbos to beat up other Jews. How do I know which ones I'm supposed to be beating up? Let's say I belong to one Kitor that beats up the other Jews. How does he know which Yidden he's supposed to beat up?
I don't understand the question. Who?
The question is, we have a Chevra in going in Yerushalayim who are beating up people on Shabbos and supposedly being Mechal Shabbos, and they say it's L'Shem Mitzvah, that they have to do it because it's Mechemes Mitzvah. So I'm asking, how do they know which Yidden they're supposed to beat up? They all look the same. I mean, how do they
people know. I
which...
mean, listen, people know. I'll let our guests respond, but people know who belongs to whom, to which group. If you belong to Rav Shaul's groups or the Rebbe's group, people know. It's not a secret. I mean, right? I don't think you can belong to both. It's either one or the other, right?
Yes, 100%. That was in the beginning.
Animosity on.
Go ahead, Avram. Yes, I'm going to let.
So it's an animosity directed against individual people, not against like they don't wear a different malbush or anything like that. They have to know individuals and have a kavanah to beat up this individual.
Yes, but I'm going to let Shlomo respond to you.
Yes. Oh. In the beginning, when B'Simchas Torah, when the Rosh Yeshiva opened his own Besmedrash, the Ger Chassidic just took out a Excel that everybody that was in the Besmedrash by the Rosh Yeshiva, there was only kind of videos or pictures that are going out from B'Simchas Torah, so they wrote his name and who his father is and who his shver is and who his brothers, where they live and which everything that was in his phone number. So just in the beginning, we got every name, and there was also pictures of everybody. So there's no question who is who. And when, let's say, every week that follows, another family or two are going from Ger to the Rosh Yeshiva, so whole Ger knows about it. Everybody knows who it is. Everybody knows who his parents, where they live. So when you met them in the street, when you say when people are hitting and beating up the other people, there was no mistakes. Everybody knew from thousands of people, everybody knew who was the one that you have to beat up on this Milchemet Mitzvah.
When you say Muhammad, we're talking about a holy war. This is being viewed as a holy war by one side attacking the other side. Let's go to David in Brooklyn. David in Brooklyn, thank you for waiting. Your question for our guest.
Hello.
Yes, David, you have a question or comment.
Yes. Good evening, Rabbi Gluck. How are you?
Rabbi Gluck is not here right now, but we do have the representative, the lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter in Israel, that's with us right now. We hope to establish contact with Yechezkel Lev, who was beaten up just a couple of weeks ago. What is your question regarding?
My question really would have been more directed at Rabbi Gluck concerning Saul Werdiger, who's the supposed.
Well, don't say.
titular head
Hold
of-
on. If you let's not attack anybody here. Saul Werdiger is a big Oscar. He's with the Agudat Israel of America.
He may be head of Agudat Israel, but he's supporting the Rebbe, paying the Rebbe's personal and his wife's business expenses when they travel to New York. They stay in his home.
Which is fine. Listen,
Rebbe
but there's no. Let me. And I'm not a Ger Chassid. I'm not a Chassid. Period. But the issue is not being a Chassid of a Rebbe. That's not the issue that we're talking about. We're talking about the altercations, the fighting that's taking place, and really, it's something which needs to be addressed because, as Rabbi Zvi Gluck put in the article that we quoted earlier, he didn't really want to get involved in this whole thing. But when you see the fights going on, it's and he didn't say it, then I'm going to say it too. It affects members of the group and members of the Hasidic group. It's affected the people in Satmar or Bubba when they're fighting. It affects the next generation. It's not healthy for the group itself. It's not healthy for the Hasidic movement in general. When you see these fights going, it doesn't create the sanctification of God's name. You're talking about some really very prestigious individuals. You're talking about some very holy institutions. And it's a shame to see the damage that's being done by the fighting. And this question is, let me turn to you, Shlomo, what can be done to stop these fightings that's taking place? Because it doesn't seem to be getting any better. I thought for a while it was quiet. Now it doesn't seem to be quiet. It seems to be flaring up again. So what can be done? I know you're going to court, but is that going to be the answer?
No, I think the court is going to be one answer, but also what you're doing is also a big answer. That's, of course, that Klal Yisrael heard what's going on and saw what's going on, and there was a Shabbos after Lag BaOmer. We had a lot of guests also from America and from the whole world. That's one of the things that could stop this whole kind of, when you speak, when people talk about it, when all the people around the whole world from the Yiddish Oilem speak about it, that's one of the ways that could stop this whole kind of thing, and they'll think about it again before they do such a thing.
And let me ask you, how has the Israeli media reacted? Because obviously some of them not sympathetic to the Haredi world. How have they covered the story? How has it affected what you're doing by the press reports that have appeared in the Israeli media?
The Israeli media is also the Haredi media. So let's start. Zamodia, that's I think is the biggest Haredi media. That's the newspaper that controls the Ger Chassidim. So I started with them also. I had them in court. So once I got them in court because all kind of things that they didn't do for.
So you say you brought Hamodia newspaper to the court.
Yes. So once they're in court, so they're out of the whole picture, and they're not against, they're not nothing. So we have quiet from them. But let's get Neman Mevaser. So they don't report about this whole thing, but they give us all kind of advertisement and things for Shaul Alter. So that's better. But we say that the old media, not the Haredi media, that means the media from say Ynet, Idiot Achronot, whatever, that's not from, it's not Haredi, they all write about it, and all we can say that they're on our side, on the side of Shaul Alter. Nobody could see such things. Thousands of people beating up a few hundred families, boys, girls, older people, just because they wanted to move to a different place. That's it.
So how large is Rav Shaul Alter's group in Israel? Because the main group is still Ger. They have the financial wherewithal. They have the institutions. They're a powerful group. They have Knesset representation. So how large is your group?
Our group in Eretz Yisrael is 500 families that we know about them. That means 500 families that we know. There is around 15,000 families. So we're talking about a few percent, something that's not, you can't understand why there's such a fight on such a little crowd that just left off Ger. Now the only, another thing, there's a few thousands or hundreds, we don't know exactly, that's called Anusim. Anusim means families that they send their kids in Ger, and they are a whole time contact with Rabbi Shaul Alter by the fax and by the phone. They ask him everything. There are people that the families that they want to go and they want to pass over to Rabbi Shaul Alter, but they're just afraid. So they do it under the table. There's all kind of shidduchim that we find out that we have to break the plate. So one says to the other one, no, I asked Rabbi Shaul Alter before we made this shidduch. So the other side said, I also did things. So that's so we have three crowds. We say the crowd of Shaul Alter, there's 500 families. We say 15,000 families that's in Ger, and there's a number that we don't know exactly that's called Anusim, that they can't
Isn't
show out.
Isn't Anusim a term used for Maranos that were
Right.
were outwardly not Jewish,
Right.
but inwardly they were? So you're saying that you have a whole group of Ger Chassidim that are supporter of Shaul Alter, but they're
Right.
Maranos in the sense where
Right.
they outwardly. What does it mean
Right.
they're
Right.
Maranos?
Maranos,
Explain.
I explained it. They come, okay, that's, I wanted to tell that in Israel we have 500 families, and then America, in Europe, it's another 300 families. So it's altogether, we're talking about 800 families that we know about. The Maranos, that means that they come home, Shabbos by the meal, and then the children are talking about Shaul Alter. We have to kill them, we have to do them, we have to harm them. And the father is crying in his heart because he knows that just before Shabbos, he just spoke by phone with Shaul Alter. And Motzi Shabbos is going to send him a fax or something. He wants to ask him some questions. That means that the situation is like the Maranos. Just when the children grow up, then the father can tell the children, listen, I heard that you spoke like this, like that. You came back from the yeshiva. You spoke against Rabbi Shaul Alter. What you should know, that everything that we do in our house, we're fouling Rabbi Shaul Alter without you should know about it. That's just like the Maranos did in Spain.
But if he's telling his kids that, isn't he afraid it's going to get out and they will be thrown
so,
out?
So he has to do it. Okay, so he has to do it just with the children that he knows that he can do it, and he has to do it slowly and surely. And a lot of people don't do it.
A lot of people just keep it. Now, you're saying within a family, you can have a father or a mother that supports Rav Shaul Alter, but their kids go to the main Ger yeshivas, so they have to toe the line. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Does that create all kinds of other issues as well? So how do you deal with that? Because at the end of the day, this is a fight that's not going away. So do you anticipate this is just going to go on indefinitely? How do you perceive it?
I think that the Klal Yisrael took it so hard. This whole thing will sit next to the table. Around the table, we'll take another week, another month, and we'll see whatever we can do to finish up this whole fight. What I want they should do, they should give back all the kids that they kidnapped. I want that all the cousins and all the brothers and all the parents and all the kids, everybody should go back.
Who is kidnapped? Let's look at it. Who's being kidnapped?
We have three. There's two families that the daughters are kidnapped. That means that's 16, 14, 17. They're kidnapped. Now there's an old organization that's called Yasfeini. Yasfeini, that's for boys that in yeshiva. That when Ger Chassidim thought or they see that the father or mother are going to Rabbi Shaul Alter, so before they get somebody a substitute, somebody should start talking with him and should talk him against his parents. That's when the parents go over to Rabbi Shaul Alter, they're not connected with the parents. They come when they want, they go when they want, they don't talk with the parents. They come just for Yom Tov. This whole thing that somebody has his son, that his son is not speaking with him, his son is angry at him, his son looks at him like he's a apikoiris, that on Mechemes Mitzvah he's supposed to kill his father, that's called kidnapped. It's not kidnapped physically by these boys, but it's mentally kidnapped. So I want that they should give back all the kids, and all the families just get back together. Parents and what I told you, everything should get back together. Then we'll stop this whole thing.
Shlomo Ehlbaum is our guest. He's on the line from Israel. He's a lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter. They are a group that broke away from the Ger Chassidic movement in Israel, and there's altercations, there's fightings, as you heard. There are all kinds of situations that are not only happening in Israel, but happening in the United States as well. We do hope to still establish contact with Yechezkel Lev, who was beaten up he was beaten up, I think, about two weeks ago. Excuse me. Welcome back to the program. I'm Zev Brenner. And we're looking at the Ger Chassidic movement and the split that's taking place. Our guest is Shlomo Ehlbaum, a lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter. We are taking your phone calls. Let's go to Saul in Brooklyn. Thank you for waiting, Saul. Go ahead. Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov, Saul.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Shaul. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good luck. It's really scary what's going on with this fight. I mean, it's like pure thuggery. You have families being broken up. It's, I think the issue is the concept of, ma'at min ha'or doicha harba min ha'choshech. A small bit of light, pushes away a lot of darkness. I think that's why they're going after these Rabbi Shaul Alter people so much. They feel intimidated by the light that's coming out of that movement. I heard you talk about they're acting like Maranos. I heard this like a little bit of a joke, but it's true. This person recognized another Rabbi Shaul Alter person in the main big Ger Beis Medrash. And he said to him quietly, "Why are you davening here? Why aren't you davening with the Rabbi Shaul Alter's minion?" He responded, "I'd rather daven with 20,000 Rabbi Shaul Alter Hasidim than just 500." But anyway.
Anyway, your question,
Zev,
our guest is. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make a comment. Basically, I just felt that this is outrageous, and it's like the thing is, like, our first leader of Klal Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, he actually God had to convince him to become the leader. He actually told God, I have a lisp, I'm a Ral Sfasayim. God had to push him into it. Nowadays, all these rebels, they're like all fighting for power. It's totally the opposite of how it's supposed to be. And I think it's disgraceful. That's all I have to say.
Shlomo, did you want to respond to that?
Oh, it's right. Okay, that's what's going on. I just wanted to fix up about Maranos, about the Asfeni. The reason why the Maranos are so much because of the Asfeni. Somebody's so scared about this thing that his kids will be kidnapped, and the Asfeni takes them and gives them meals and makes them parties. And this Medrash, these girls that are kidnapped are sitting next to the Rebbetzin. That's a terrible thing. That's the only reason that people say, I can't pass, I can't go over, because all my kids will end up in Asfeni. It can't be such a thing. That's the main reason that people are just stuck in the same place. And that's why he said 20,000 people. I won't say 20,000 people, but there is thousands of people stuck in there and not coming to Shaul Alter because this Asfeni, that he gives this platform for all these children that are kidnapped and brainwashed to stay in Ger.
But let me ask you this, and thank you, Saul. That was for your question to our guests, and it's good to hear from you again on the radio. I know you used to be a regular. Hope to hear more from you. But let me ask you this question. Good luck. Why all of a sudden in the last year or so did this whole thing come to fore? Why did Rav Shaul all of a sudden decide that he's going to do a breakaway, have a different group? What precipitated him to break away from the main group?
Shaul Alter, he didn't break up. The reason was that he was kicked out. He was thrown out of the Beis Medrash, and that was the reason that he didn't have any. There's no choice, and he had to open the Beis Medrash for himself. The reason that he was kicked out, so that's an American reason. I think that a lot of people know it. There was a whole conversation about the camp Ger camp in America, that it was somebody Berliner that he bought the camp. It was already was bankrupt, and he took it out of the bank. And then Ger wanted to have this camp taken back to Ger. And this Berliner said, no, I want to go to Besdin. I should see who's right, who it belongs. And once Berliner didn't want to give to Ger the camp back, so they started to make him the same what they make now to Shabbos. All the people, they did the same to him. And he came to Etzisol for a wedding from his child, and the whole Ger was against him. They were dancing under his house, Moche Simche, Zecher Molek. They got in water in his house. They just destroyed his house. Wherever he went to a hotel. Wherever he went, there was people around his house, and screaming and yelling and needed police. So Shaul Alter gave out a letter, and on the letter he said that the Ger rebels are against all these kind of things. But this thing that Shaul Alter wrote a letter against what Ger is doing, that was the reason why Shaul Alter was kicked out. So once he was kicked out, then this whole thing started.
Okay, let's go to Shalom in Brooklyn. Shalom in Brooklyn, thank you for waiting. Your question for our guest.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Just have to lower your rating.
I think it's important to mention the fact everyone who considers himself a Ger Chassid knows that it goes way long back when there was a difference in Derech HaLimud between the Ger Rebbe and Rabbi Shaul Alter. That's when it really goes back, and they don't want to talk about that. But that's the root of it, and I think they should respond to that. They let them respond because they know that there's a difference between in the Derech HaLimud between the Ger Rebbe's Derech and Rabbi Shaul Alter's Derech. That's the root cause, and that's what they should address.
Shalom, you want to tackle that?
Yes, I'll tell you. Rabbi Shaul Alter, he's okay. There's a different Derech HaLimud, but Rabbi Shaul Alter, not for that, he just passed away. Everybody that was engaged the last 10 years, that is 10 years or more, that this Derech HaLimud changed, every person could take his son specifically and send him to a different yeshiva, Chassidic yeshiva, that learns in the Derech HaLimud, the other Derech HaLimud. That's not a problem. But what happened these last 2 years, the 3 years, what happened was there was a few families that they decided, okay, we're also taking our children, we're staying in Ger, but our children, our Bachum, we want they should go to a different Chassidic yeshiva. What happened in that moment was that they were thrown out of Ger, all the children from all the schools, and not that. Ger went to the other schools that just children wanted to go and tried to make that they shouldn't take the kids. That means they made if children today, the Derech HaLimud was able to be also from Ger and also from Rabbi Shaul in the same place, because the Bochrim from Rabbi Shaul would go to a different yeshivas, they stopped it. They make that nobody could go somewhere else. If you take out your Bocher from the yeshiva from Ger and send him to a different yeshiva, the same on that spot, you're kicked out of Ger altogether. But not only you're kicked out of Ger, you also can't send him in any different place, because every other yeshiva, any other cheder that takes kids from families that left Ger, they go over attacks and terror from the whole Ger Chassidic. That's also one of the reasons that now something changed, and not because there was something back a few years ago.
Does that answer your question, Shalom? Okay, I thank you for your phone call. We're looking at what's happening in the Ger Chassidic movement. So let me ask you this question. Have you heard from other Hasidic groups about what's going on with Ger? Has it created some friction with other groups? Have you heard from other groups in Israel? Because Ger holds a lot of political power. Has this gone beyond the Ger movement?
I'll tell you, all the Hasidis, we all know, we all have connection with them. All the Hasidis, we say Belz, we say Vizhnitz, we say Machnovke, we say Slonim. All the Hasidis that we know, they're together with us. They hold with us. Rabbi Shaul Alter spoke with them, part of them before he went, before they started this whole thing. But because of the politics that meanwhile Ger has the politics, and he has also in the Knesset and also in the Area, so they're afraid. That's the reason, the real reason why all the rebels are quiet and they try not to do breakout. We all hope that the lecture that it's going to be another year or it's another year and a half in the Eriyot, and about the Knesset, we don't know when it's going to be. So break out, like in Yerushalayim, the breakout that Ger was taken away the big part that they had, and now it will be the same also in the Knesset and also in the Eriyot. So this whole thing could change.
Now, are you afraid to speak out because you're taking an active role? You're suing those that have either kidnapped or beating up other individuals. Are you afraid for your own safety?
I'm afraid, but I know that that's what I have to do. I'm very afraid. Yes, I think that
Have
if
you
you
been,
have to,
have you been attacked?
I was not really. I think that they also think twice before they attack me because I'm a lawyer. But I'm afraid, and every day I go out of the house, I'm looking before, I'm looking after, I look in the cameras if something, I have cameras around the house. When I go to Ma'ariv, I look up. When I go to the mikveh in the morning, I look what's going around me. Of course, I'm afraid, but I know that that's what I have to do.
And we're back. Our numbers, by the way, are 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Email's a wonderful way to have some of your questions answered as well. That's zevbrenner@gmail.com, zevbrenner@gmail.com. Our guest from Israel is Shlomo Ehlbaum. He is a lawyer for the Ger Chassidic community. He's actually for Rabbi Shaul Alter's group, and we're looking at some of the problems, some of the tribulations that they're going through in Israel. Let's read an email from Lakewood, New Jersey. Shlomo, here's an email. Why has the Ger Rebbe been completely quiet the entire time?
What's the question?
The question is, why has the Ger Rebbe been completely quiet the entire time, and wasn't he the one who instigated the violence?
The Ger Rebbe is quiet the whole time. We look at it looks like us that we know that's a game. That means he is not involved in anything. He's just learning the whole day or davening the whole day, and he made a vada. That means a whole a few people that they take care of everything. But we know that it's only a play, it's only a game. He's standing and he knows everything, and he's under everything. And the only person that could say they should stop it is only him. So we hope that the people that hear this program that's now in the air will tell them to the people over there and tell them should try to stop this whole thing. The only person in the world that could stop it is only him.
Let me turn to Yechezkel Lev. Yechezkel Lev joined us. He is a victim. He was beaten up a couple of Fridays ago. So Yechezkel, we appreciate you joining us. What happened?
I was walking down the road with my wife at 1:30 in Friday night on Shabbos, and a mob of like a few hundred, 300, 400, 500 in Bochum and Yungolait just started surrounding us and punching at us, kicking at us, pounding on my face, on my head, on my eyes, just trying to get rid of me. Let's put it that way.
What did they say when they were attacking you?
Cursing, Rushe, Amulaik, calling my wife a shiksa, Goite, Amulaik, Buchay Timche, Zaycha, Amulaik, all kind of that kind of stuff.
So how badly were you beaten at the time?
Extremely. I had to be carried into a car, and for some reason I asked not to go to the hospital. They dropped me off by my house with a car on Shabbos. My face was blown up. My eyes were all black and blue all around them. I broke a rib. My nose is broken till now. The bone of my nose, under my eyes. I was extremely. The Rebbeinu Shalom really made a mess. Simply a mess.
Did you go to the police?
I was bleeding extreme huge amounts of blood.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you go to the police? Did you file a report?
Yes, I did. I surely did.
Now, how have had the police been involved in arresting or intervening at all? Or what's been their role?
I do not know, and I think not. I'm scared that they're not doing enough. I don't know.
Why, in your opinion, are the police not doing enough?
It seems that they're not doing enough, but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not so involved in all these askanas.
Now, have you been a follower of Shaul Alter for a long time? Is it more recent? How did you?
I am his Talmud from Yeshiva 20 years ago. I left. The Kemat didn't go into Ger for the past 18 years. I am a chassid of the Rachmastrifke Rebbe from Yerushalayim. Very, very big tzaddik. I've been following him for the past, since he became Rebbe, so probably almost 17, 18 years. And nothing against Ger, nothing for Ger. Just my children didn't learn there for the past. My last child, probably 10 years ago, left the system of Ger. No shaykhis, nothing positive, nothing negative. Going down my road.
So then, if that's the case, why were you beaten up? They perceive you to be a
Because
follower of Alter.
Because since he opened up his Besmedrash, I do daven there. I do affiliate right now with that kehillah. So if you daven in that kehillah, even though you didn't leave Ger, I'm going to kill you.
So no, so what you're saying is, if I understand you correctly, is that you were a follower of the Ger Rebbe, but you left about 18 years ago, approximately, for another Rebbe. But if you daven in Rabbi Shaul Alter's base medrash, but you're not really a member of the Ger group, and so you're not a breakaway. Is that correct?
Correct. I got married like 21, 22 years ago, and I was born in Ger. But at the first opportunity, I found myself a place where I think I belonged more. And I'm not even a follower of Ger. Correct.
And have you had any, before this event, have you had any other issues or any other problems with members of the main Ger Chassidic group?
Oh, yes. For the past 3 years, when I walk in the street, I see hatred in the eyes, cursing, spitting, screaming, Amalek, Russia, die, all kind of cursing, anything possible besides acting Jewish, everything.
So no, so not only is, so what I'm ascertaining from you is not only directed against Ger Chassidim that turned to Rav Shaul Alter, even if you're not the Ger Chassid, which you weren't at that time, they still go after,
Correct.
as long as you attend Rav Shaul Alter's Beit Medrash, even though you're not really a Ger Chassid.
Correct, 100%.
Are there other
Even
people?
my children, when they go in the street, are harassed whenever they go in the street.
So how old are your children, by the way?
I have, believe it or not, 11 children
Baruch
between 2 and 21, all ages.
And how do they feel about being harassed or being, I assume they weren't beaten, but how do they feel about being harassed, about their father being beaten?
I don't think words can explain it.
Wow.
I think it's a very, very horrible feeling.
Do you have other friends that were beaten up as well?
Correct. Many. Tens of friends.
Now, this happened on a Friday night.
Yes.
On Shabbos.
Correct.
So, and what did they threw you against the car?
No. They pushed me till I got to a wall on Tnuva, by a stone wall. They put me up to the wall and just punched in my face, in my eyes, in my head, in all parts of my body, kicking and punching any way possible.
Now, do you know who these people are? Do you recognize those that beat you?
Yes, I do. I don't know if I know all of them, but I know a fair part of them.
And have you had any relationship with them over the course of time, or you just know who they are?
A few of them are my cousins, my families.
Oh my.
Yes.
Family members.
Correct.
Wow. Is that shocking?
It's
Or is that
much more
normal?
than shocking.
A lot of families of
It's children of my first cousin's children.
So is this true of other families where there's violence within the family itself, where one family member will attack another family member because they belong to the other group?
I don't know. I don't follow up. I don't hear news. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm shocked enough as it is. I'm not looking to hear more stories to get more shocked.
Wow. Let me turn to Shalom. But what about your side? Have you also been attacking the Ger Chassidic followers? Have there been instances of that as well? Just one moment, Shlomo.
No.
One moment.
The opinions and views expressed therein do not of AM6 or its management.
AM 620 WSNR.
So Shlomo, have your group members also attacked the main Ger Chassidic group?
No one. The lawyer that they have he mentioned a few times and phone calls to all Ger Chassidim, 15,000 houses. If there's somebody that did something to the Ger Chassidim, no one, no ever, there was no case, not in Bezdin, not by Rabbanim, not in court, nothing, never, no. They're trying to make a noise about it, but I didn't meet one guy or one case in the last 3 years that somebody of us have heard or beaten somebody from the Ger Chassidim.
Are you claiming it's only a one-way street?
100%.
Narrow one-way street.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I'll tell you. I was once in court, and one of the lawyers said that they were also doing something. So the judge said, "I can't understand how could it be such a thing that you're saying that such a little group could do something against a group with 15,000 families. It's a thing that nobody could send one story or one person that got something, that was beaten, that was kicked, that was yelling at him. There was nothing. For 3 years past, there was no one story that we heard about it."
Yeah, but I think it was the media. It might have been the Jerusalem Post. Didn't they report a story, for example, of a clash when the Ger Rebbe went to the Kiryat Shul cemetery in Tel Aviv to visit the grave of his mother-in-law, where, and according to this is what the paper said, where breakaway sect members clashed with him? So if that's the case, it would seem that your side clashed with the Ger Rebbe.
No, there was no such story. There was no thing, not in police, not in court, nothing. That was the person at the cameras. Also, we all saw the cameras. There was also people see there was a father that his daughter that I told you are brainwashed and kidnapped. So he went to the Ger Rebbe with a mic and was asking him, "Rebbe, tell your Hasidim to give me back my daughters." And that was the whole thing. He just went out of the car. He was thrown down, kicked down. Everything you could see. There's no way altogether that a person that he's not so strong and he's also wealthy, he should go next to the Ger Rebbe. The Ger Rebbe is surrounded with dozens of Chassidim, and there's no way to get to him. So this whole thing that he wanted to do something to him, it's all nothing. It's all a lie.
Here's an email question for Yechezkel. Why did you leave the Ger Chassidic movement in the first place?
I don't want to go down that road. I'm not talking about negative things. It's not a place for Jewish upper class people to be. I'm not going into that road.
Okay. Here's another email question to you, Shlomo. The question is they want clarification about the Ger Rebbe at the cemetery. What you said before is that the Ger Rebbe, that it was instigated by his followers, but according to the media, what I just read, it seemed that your followers are the ones who attack or try to attack the Ger Rebbe, but you said he was well protected.
Right. There was nothing, and there's no way. In one moment that the Ger Rebbe was seems being attacked. There was just one thing that a father came and was asking to get his daughters back home. That's the only thing that happened. Nobody thought of attacking. There's no way altogether you could attack him. He's surrounded with a bunch of people. You could see all the cameras, and there was no such a thing altogether. Never.
Let me turn to you, Yechezkel. And you said before that family members in your situation had attacked you, and were part of the group that beat you up. Prior to this event, at family events, have you had any altercations with these family members that beat you up?
Never, ever.
And did you ever see the hostility from them in other situations?
Yes, they harass me. They do harass me and my children in the streets, screaming at me, cursing me. Yes, 100%. Whenever I see them in the street, that's what I hear.
And have you ever had a conversation with them where you try to reason with them, or we try to have a conversation with them to understand why they have this hostility? Because you are a family member.
Never any conversation.
I would assume that are there any marriages between those that follow the Ger Rebbe and those that follow Rabbi Shaul Alter?
Really not.
In other words, there's no marriages. In other words, you have no intermarriage, so to speak.
They got very clear instructions. They're not allowed to converse with us, meet us, talk to us, and they can't even. If you're a father or a brother or a child of someone in our community, you cannot come to our simchas, and you cannot be in contact with us. We're like in a cherem.
So are you officially in Cherem and excommunicated?
We are over officially in cherem. Correct.
Was there a pronunciation where they said anybody who follows Shaul is in Cherem? Has there been such a right, or has there been any proclamation as such, or just
Oh
de
yes,
facto?
a public announcement. Whoever goes to daven even one time in that shul, we cannot have any contact with them in any way, shape, or form.
Wow, wow. Has there been any members of Shaul's group that said they can't take it and move back to the main Ger Chassidic group?
I think not. Maybe there is one or two people that I remember. Maybe one, if I remember good.
And how long can this go on?
Oh, we don't know. We daven every day that the world to see only good, and all the bad should go away. We don't know.
But you're willing to go the full course.
We're on a one-way street, like you said before.
You just heard the Yechezkel Lev. He was just beaten up a couple of weeks ago on a Friday night by the rival group, the main Ger Chassidic group. And we have Shlomo Ehlbaum as our guest lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter as well. We continue taking your phone calls and your comments when we come back. And we're back. Our final stretch. Yechezkel Lev is a beating victim, beaten up by the main followers of the Ger Chassidic Rebbe in Israel. And Shlomo Ehlbaum is a lawyer for Rabbi Shaul Alter, the breakaway group in the Ger Chassidic movement. And we have a whole bunch of emails. We're going to get to as many as we can right now. Question to you is, why did they beat you up, and why did they single you out when there are others who have the same beliefs that you have?
Every single one of us that was gotten in the street on that Shabbos, we're talking about if it was 25 or 30 or 40 people I didn't follow up. Every single one who was found in the street by this mob got the same exact thing as me. Nothing to do with me or any specific name or any specific argument. Every single one of us.
But let me answer this question. For a mob to go out and look for someone, it had to be somebody to incite them, because this is nothing new that there are people who don't follow the Ger Rebbe and following of Shaul Alter. So what happened that Friday night where you have a mob out there looking to beat up people from the other group? What transpired?
According to what I was told, and I understand it as I'm understood fully, that was they got instructions to do that. Full, straight, clear instructions. Bring blood and just try to make as much nezek, as much.
But who gave these instructions?
I understand the higher ups. Call it committee, call it the head of the committee, call it the rabbi. I wasn't there to tell you exactly who was the one.
You must have heard. Did it come from the Rebbe himself? Did it come from the top?
That's what I was told. I was told that it came directly from his mouth. Yes, I was told. I wasn't there.
You're saying the Rebbe himself said to go beat up people.
That's what I understand. I would like to ask him, if I would be given the chance, I would ask him in his face.
Let me ask you this question. You're the lawyer, Shlomo Ehlbaum. You tried to have you considered deposing the Rebbe or having that proceedings brought so he can answer these questions? Has that been part of your strategy too?
No, we're trying not to go against the Rebbe. Meanwhile, to ask him straightly or to sue him, whatever. We're still trying to get it off. We shouldn't get into another this kind of matter that happened. That's why we're trying to stand away from him. But what we know, we heard that it came from him.
Well, you heard the same thing. Hold on. You said you heard that it came from the Rebbe directly. Is that correct?
Right.
So what you're claiming is that the Rebbe himself told his Hasidim to engage in violence against members of Shaul Alter's group. Is that correct?
Correct.
So as a lawyer, I'm just curious again, and I understand, it's a sensitive topic, but have you been advised or have ever thought about deposing the Rebbe to find if that indeed is the case and maybe try to stop it from that way? Would that end the conflict if there was a threat of him appearing in court? Would that change the situation?
Yeah, it's a very heavy question. The way that we're following now, also the Shaul, the Rosh Yeshiva, and also another people that are involved, That meanwhile we're trying to stand away from the Rebbe alone. We hope that that's going to come down the thing. If we'll stop to get the Rebbe involved, maybe it could get more dangerous, and the Hasidim will act in a way that's going to be worse than happened that Shabbos. That's the reason that we're still
So
standing
what are you
away.
concerned about? The only thing could be worse could be murder. Are you suspecting that this is possible?
I'm telling you
100%.
that the Shabbos that
100%.
passed, there were few people that made a goimel with Shem Malchus by the Sefer Torah Shabbos in the morning because they were in a danger from a murder. That was very close. One of the people that we know is also an American citizen. The Ger Chassidim, they were sure that he is already murdered. That's why they stand away from him. After he lost he was unconscious. Then after a few minutes, they saw that he's still breathing and he's still moving. So they got to him again till the ambulance just survived him. Now on Shavuos, he was also going back and forth home. The Ger Chassidim that were surrounding him and said that's the person that by mistake he wasn't killed. So if you're talking about murder, we're holding over there. We're very, very nearby, yes.
So let me ask you this question. Where is the Israeli police? If we're talking about, God forbid, and what you're saying to me is very shocking, that there's Ritzicha, there's murder in the air. Shouldn't there be police protection for your group?
Yes, the murder is not only in the air. We also found in the such yeshivas that is we see on the wall, hanging or paper that says over there that apikoides you have to kill. And of course, they hold that somebody that left off the Ger Rebbe is apikoides because Ger Rebbe he's God, he's whatever. So it's not only in the air; it's also on the wall. It's written paste on the wall that you have to kill us. That's
I repeat my question: Have you tried to get police protection for yourself and other?
Of course, we try to get police protection. Our problem is also the politic problem. In Eretz Yisrael, the way is that in everything, everything is politics. So they get the lawyer in Bechemesh. Somebody is from the Ger. He came to Bechemesh and he says the police, listen, get off of these people. These people don't do anything. That same in Yerushalayim, the same in every place. We're a very bad situation. That Ger is also in the politics, it has a big power, and the police is probably following them, and we're not getting what we have to, the protection that we have to get.
Has anybody been arrested in any of these incidents?
I don't think something serious. I meet every day. I meet every day in the shul where I daven my riv over there. Every day, one of the people that came to kill one of my neighbors. And I see him and I ask his family to tell me he was arrested. Somebody called him. They say, no, nothing happened with him. He's going, I see him, I meet him every day, nothing happened. That's terrible. It's scary and terrible. The police is not doing what they have to do.
Here's an email question from actually saved from Chanan. The crux of the problem, to put simply, is that the Ger Rebbe is petrified that Rabbi Shaul Alter, if given a free hand, will attract thousands of people from Ger, and that's why he's fighting him and his Kehillah like mad. The Ger Rebbe has reason to fear. He's an introvert, shy, barely heard. Then Rabbi Shaul Alter, at the other end, is friendly, available, a massive Talmud Chacham, excellent R-rated, socially healthy. Okay, I mean, I'm sure that this is a follower of Shaul Alter. Here's somebody else writes. David writes, "As nothing in Ger is ever done without the Rebbe's order or consent, period." But another email question says, is that nobody ever heard the Rebbe say anything to engage in violence. So is there any witnesses that heard the Rebbe actually say that? Both of you made the accusation. Has there ever been any verification where somebody has told you, or do you have witnesses that said they actually heard this to be the case?
Yes, the witness is not from the Ger Rebbe to me, but somebody else heard from a witness. Yes, of course. I have the names and I have everything. Yes.
You have the names of people that actually heard it from the Rebbe himself, is what you're saying.
Yes, right.
Okay, here's another email. Just to clarify, I don't think you heard and understood Shlomo's explanation. One of Rav Shaul's followers, whose daughters left home after being brainwashed, had a loudspeaker saying to the Rebbe, "Give me back my daughter." That's why they were saying the Rebbe was harassed. As the lawyer explained, the Rebbe is very well protected. It's very hard to reach him. Chas v'sholom attack him. Okay, thank you for the clarification about that. Here's another email question. Historically, Ger was embattled in various violent disputes already in Poland, including a long-waged vicious assault against the Alexander Hasidim over territorial claims. This control over the Hasidim is nothing new. Anybody want to comment about that?
I think that today everything is different. There's things that were more acceptable 100 years ago, something like that. Today is very, very rare. And if you say that there were in Alexander with territory problems, we're not talking about territory problems. I told you before, we're talking about brainwashing against our kids, brainwashing against our parents, brainwashing against my brothers and sisters. That's a very, very, very rare. That also in Ger Alexander there wasn't such a thing ever.
Now, let me ask this question. Obviously, the main Ger group has been around for a while. They have a following, they have a large following, they have power, they have money. So if somebody loses their job because of the fact that they follow Rabbi Shaul, do you have any wherewithal to help support them? What happens to those people that don't have a parnos, don't have a job because they were fired? What are you doing to help them?
We're taking everybody that lost a job, so we have to pay them all the rights that they have in the leave of the jobs. And in between, yes, we try to get everybody that lost his job to get a different job, of course. We have a lot of Talmidei Chachomim that left of the jobs in yeshivas, a lot of Magid Shiurim that left of the jobs, and we try to get everybody should have a place, of course.
Yechezkel, a listener is commenting the fact that you speak English well. Are you an American citizen?
Yes, I am.
And you made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, to Israel?
I reside in Israel. I'd never made Aliyah. No, I didn't.
Okay, but you reside in Israel, so were you there for the last 10 years, 18 years, as you said earlier?
I'm here for the past over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Okay. So does the fact that an American citizen was being beaten up, does that have any implications at all? Does that help you at all? Is either as far as the Israeli police or some other remedy?
No, did not feel any more protection by that. No, I did not.
No, he did not.
I got a phone call from the embassy asking how I am, but not more than that.
And did the embassy, beyond that, they didn't try to help you out any other way?
What could they help me? They could just try to
Intervene with
calm
the
me down.
authorities to protect you, for more protection for you.
A phone call asking how I am and wishing me all the best. That's all I could do. That's all I could do for me.
And I want to thank you, first of all, Yechezkel Lev, who was a beating victim of the main Ger Chassidic group, including some of his family members, which I find shocking. I appreciate you were speaking out about what happened. Shlomo Ehlbaum, a lawyer for Shaul Alter, thank you for being with us. The final question to you is, it's unusual for a Ger Chassid to be a lawyer, so how did that come about in your case?
Okay, you're asking a good question. When I started learning, I was a Tohen Rabbani and also a lawyer. I always thought that it's going to, this path that's going to be, is going to be a split one day, and they'll need a lawyer to be next to everything. I thought that they'll need a lawyer for real estate, all kind of stuff, but I never thought I would need a lawyer for all this kind of beating up and all this kind of murder, Hashem Yishmor, all these kind of things. What should I do? That's what I thought, and that's the only reason that I got a lawyer.
Now, are there other lawyers that belong to Rabbi Shaul Alter's group?
Yes.
Oh, there are. Are they also defending him, or is it primarily you?
No, just me. The other lawyers have all kind of parents that are still over there, of all kind of reasons that they don't want to take a part in this whole kind of thing. Baruch Hashem, my parents also came over to the Shaul Alter's community. Also, my father-in-law, mother-in-law. So that's a way that I'm free to protect and do whatever I think I have to do.
Is this your only client right now?
No.
You have other clients. Have you lost business because of the fact that you're representing Rabbi Shaul Alter?
A lot. I lost clients, and I also gave back money to a lot of clients that they saw that I'm into it, and my head is into it 24 hours a day.
Wow. Anyway, thank you for being here with us. Hopefully we love to see a resolution of this conflict. We hate to see any fighting, So
Yeah,
thank
we
you
hope
for
so.
being part of our special broadcast tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for
Have a good
joining
one.
us. That's about all the time we have. Wow, this time just flew quickly. Lebedekel Gordon and Sarah Gordon is next. Reminder, we're here you today on WOR 710 AM from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Join us nightly starting at 7 o'clock here on WSNR 620 AM. And we are available 24 hours a day at talklinenetwork.com and our 24-hour day listen line, 641-793-0382, 641-793-0382. It's any of our past shows. Please find us on YouTube and other social media, but preferably on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Lebedekel Gordon is next. Have a wonderful night. We'll speak to you a little later on today.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
For continuous Jewish programs, talklinenetwork.com or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the talklinenetwork.com.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Hi, it's Malia Feivelson from Hebrew Hits Podcast.